Welcome to the another Channelplay Leadership podcast, where we talk everything in retail, in Middle East, or anything which connected to retail, people, tech, anything which matters in the business of retail in the market. Channelplay is a large retail execution business. We outsource large team of sales promoter, merchandiser across India and Middle East. Also, we have our own retail channel tech, and we serve about 200 clients in the region, which is all about doing retail within FMCD, FMCG, or any other products and marketing. Today, I have with me a very interesting guest and somebody who I have tremendous respect for. I have with me today Deepak Kaul. I call him sir, it's just by habit. I get used to calling him Deepak sir. So if I call in between Deepak sir, that's how it is going to be. Deepak sir has been in the industry for over 40 years. He comes from the most prestigious business school in 1984 in IIM Ahmedabad, and then worked with best of the brands in the market. I have known sir for about 2 years, and now as also an advisor and a board member and a mentor at Channelplay Middle East. He has been a mentor to me where I'm learning the ropes of especially merchandising and many, many other things in leadership and people. Sir is a great drummer as well, and when given a mic and he's in mood, can also sing really well, apart from many, many other good things he does. So today we're going to cover everything, and our topic for today is largely one thing which he's very passionate about and which I'm learning is all about merchandising. So Deepak sir, before we get the conversation going, why don't you just tell our audience all about yourself and all the good things you have done over 4 decades of your experience?
Thank you, Abbas, for inviting me. What you just did to me is the great merchandising.
Okay.
You suddenly made me look very good to your audience. So that is all merchandising is all about. Been in the industry for 40 years, started from Nestle, then went to Johnson & Johnson, and then went to No-Sil, then Kellogg's, Coca-Cola. Last 18 years with Coke, started from India. Then managed UAE and Oman as a managing director, then moved to Saudi. Just moved out of Coke about a year back. And so this is very, very briefly about me and my 40 years in 40 seconds.
And how many years in Middle East, sir, out of all that?
I've done 2 stints in Middle East. I came here in year 2000 for 2 years. I was working with IFCO, great company. Then I went back to India, then came in 2012 with Coke. And so 13 years now and 2 years earlier, so about 15 years.
Oh, that's a good part in Middle East.
Yes.
And during a Middle East, does it cover UAE, Saudi, what all geographies?
No, I covered, when I was here with IFCO, so I used to cover GCC except Saudi.
Okay.
GCC and also covering South Africa that time. But when I came with Coke, so I've covered UAE, I've covered Oman, and I've covered Saudi. So between Coke and IFCO, it's been whole of GCC.
Oh, fantastic.
And also part of, for a part-time, I did South Africa also. Yeah.
You had a stint in Russia as well.
I was in Russia when Coke bought a juice company there. So I was sent there to integrate that with the Coke system. I was in Malaysia with Kellogg's as a trade marketing manager for Southeast Asia. So I was covering all the 5-6 countries. Then as a sales director for Malaysia and Singapore. And been around, done a bit of work.
Quite a bit of many, many different places, different brands, different products.
Absolutely. Different geographies.
And last you retired as?
As a GM for Coke from Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
That's a big market.
Yes.
Extremely. And a market where Coke had to try very hard.
It's very, very competitive. And it's a big market and a growing market. Very big consumer base, young population, a lot of internal consumption. It doesn't depend on tourism or anything else. So pretty insulated from outside. It's a great place. And it's changing. I mean, last 7-8 years, it's really changing very fast. So right time to be there.
And if you look at GCC as a market, and you said you've done 2 stints over 15 years. Over the last, let's say, decade, what has changed? If 2-3 things you see as a P&L leader, as a CXO, that these are the couple of things you always, it comes right at your face, you say, oh, this has changed a lot.
Consumer profile has changed significantly. The young generation is asserting itself, which is very rightly so, which also means companies have to change their portfolio to meet the consumer. The way you reach consumer, I think there's a big shift from press to TV to social media now, which means that your marketing campaigns could be very targeted. So that has changed. The delivery modules have changed significantly. Earlier it used to be small outlets, then big formats of supermarkets. Now we know what's happening especially after COVID. The delivery modules have changed. And all these things have put pressure on the P&L.
Yeah.
So companies have to become more efficient, more tech-driven, and more targeted if you really need to continue to deliver your P&L. So these are fundamental changes which has happened. Yeah.
I think the whole e-commerce, and then within e-commerce, the quick delivery is been a game changer and especially the industries you have been associated with, right? Today, it's just getting anything delivered at home within 15 minutes is a game changer to going to the market. So your presence not only in the shelves, but also in the mobile devices.
Oh, yeah. Technology has changed, as I said, and aggregators have become big time. The consumer is getting spoiled for the choices. But all that comes at a huge P&L pressure, because suddenly there is a third man in between you and the consumer who does this quick commerce. So the cost of that player within the food chain is putting pressure. So companies really will have to think through that how do you manage this, because this is going to stay. Certain countries are now saying that, this quick delivery is not right thing to go with because it creates a lot of issues and safety issues, etc. But it's going to stay in one form or the other. You might have drones supplying or something else. So companies will have to learn how to cope up with this change in the supply chain and the delivery module. And I'm sure guys are working on that.
So my favorite topic, and which I become new, I'm very fascinated with. And there's a story that I grew up in a kirana shop, right? My dad still runs. This is my dadaji, my grandfather's shop. Dad runs it. We all grew up. One of our thing was...
How old is that shop?
That shop must be now more than 120 years. So Dad's been running it for 60 years.
Okay.
Before that, grandfather used to run it.
And it's like a heritage site.
It is.
They might change it to a heritage
I
site.
wish they had kept the old shop. See, the old shop had the old wooden windows, then Jaroka, and that all of that was there in it.
Galeb.
Of course, then all of that is there now is new. But still, that has that same till box, and then there are those candy jars and all the expensive stuff like the cashew nuts and almonds are behind him in the bar, and then there is all this sugar and everything else been selling. So, and then from there to now, when as a role of Channelplay and CEO of Channelplay Middle East, I discovered the world of merchandising, which I thought somewhere we always did in the kirana shop as well. So for everybody to understand, can you define what is merchandising and make it as simple as possible and make it as scientific as possible?
Listen, it's a big topic. I'll try to put it in simple words. It is...
That's all we're discussing next 1 hour, sir.
Yeah, make it interesting. It's about placing your product.
Yeah.
Promoting it, which eventually leads to selling it.
Okay.
This is very, very fundamental, crude language of merchandising. How you place it, how you promote it, eventually with an objective of selling it. It could be a product, it could be a service. It is, even we do merchandising every day on ourselves. When you're going to a presentation, you wear jackets and you go there. Why? Because you want to look good. You want to sell yourself. But you don't wear the same dress when you go to play golf or when you go for a party in the night. So you're also changing your packaging. So in lives, we do merchandising every time. And it's happening in a subconscious way.
My wife does it 4 times a day.
Yeah. So, but very crudely saying, these are the definition of There are some critical elements of merchandising. Okay, the base of everything is the product.
Yeah.
So product becomes the center focal point. Then the placement of that product. Okay, then the pricing of that product. Then the promotion of that product. So these are different things that come under merchandising. They play different roles for different product categories. But this is what merchandising would be in a very, very 35,000 feet definition.
There's merchandising, there's a role of a merchandiser, and there is merchandise, right? So product is the merchandise the one who's doing it.
Yes.
Merchandising is the function, right? How important a growth lever it is.
Let's go back
Sure.
over time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember when I was growing up in India, there'll be one kirana shop and you
Yeah.
can correlate with that.
Yeah.
Okay. With a table on top and the owner sitting on the other side and you're there.
Yeah.
And you give him a slip.
Yeah.
It didn't say brands.
Yeah.
It said edible oil, 500 ml. You sometimes carry your own bottle.
You did in my
Right,
shop.
yes.
That was that. We
And-
first
and-
took the weight of the empty bottle.
Exactly.
Then we put the oil or a
And
ghee
the
in it.
oil will come from a 25-liter can,
That's right.
right? You say, I want washing soap.
Yeah.
He'll open another can or somewhere and he'll take it, break it, and give it to you.
Yeah.
So there were products. There were no brands, right? And the guy sitting on the other side of the counter will decide what he wants to sell. Because that time our, needs were very minimal. Like if you say, I'm thirsty, so okay, drink water. So you go open the tap, drink water. So your need is met. But as we grew, our needs started growing, and which led to our wants also growing, our desires. So now if I'm hungry, I don't eat 2 breads. Do I want a pasta? Do I want a noodle? Do I want a burger? Do I want this? Do I want that? So as the need grows, okay, the wants also start growing. The desires also start growing.
Yeah.
So you have multiple ways of satisfying one need. Right. So if you are promoting those ways, then you want your product to stand out as an ideal thing to meet that need.
Yeah.
So which means the fight starts. Who is more visible? Who is more within the arm's reach of desire? Who is communicating better with the consumer? So that's how gradually the merchandising started evolving. As
Yeah.
you would see, the kirana stores had nothing.
Yeah.
Then somebody came with a chip stand, so that came
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Somebody came with a Coke cooler, that came out. So gradually, as you said, your dad will keep all the cashews and everything there.
Yeah.
There's a science behind it.
Yeah.
Because there also he's trying to maximize his revenue.
Yeah.
So anything which gives him more profit is very close to him,
Yeah.
and he wants the consumer to see. Anything which doesn't give him that much of profit, he'll keep it, at the back.
Yeah.
So dad was also doing merchandising in
Yeah.
a very subtle way. It's just that we have now started using techniques and technology to bring the same basic fundamentals upfront in the shops. And
You see-
shop formats have changed now.
Just how do you make people look at your product to buy? Make
Yes.
them see it, to pick that and say,
See-
I want that.
If you have a great product, but if it doesn't reach the consumer, and if it doesn't get presented the right way, then you lost the plot. So I think merchandising is one of the very critical arms of completing your sales cycle. Because that is where the consumer goes and interacts with your product. He or she will see it. So it has to look attractive. It has to be at the right location on the shelf. Pick it up. Okay, it should be nice to hold. Should have the right information. Should have the right pricing. Everything should be depicted well. If there's a promotion, even better. Because a lot of pricing decisions are made right on the shop floor.
True.
So merchandising over the years has become extremely critical because that is where the consumer interacts with your product. And 40% of what we buy in the grocery outlet today is not what we came to buy. So there's a lot of impulse purchase that happens. And that impulse purchase gets triggered by very exciting merchandising.
I was listening to this podcast, one of my favorite podcasts, Acquired, and that there's a long form episode on Mars company and all their candies and chocolates and everything. And somewhere they say that all the by the counter gums and chocolates and candies where largely they are to blame, like Coca-Cola to blame for all the banners, all the signages to the pharmacies in US way back when they started. And they said that because the parents came with the kids and the kid would argue, now that I've come with you, I want a chocolate. And it being placed next to the payment counter,
True.
Make those impulse purchases and those candies. Nobody bargained that is it a cents, 10 cents or 5 cents. They just paid it because kids wanted it. Good placement also made them a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And that company is now today everybody thinks it's common, but actually they are the one who thought or started with it apparently.
Yes, so, which is the impulse.
Yeah.
You see and you buy. You don't go with an idea of buying it, but you create that impulse and they end up buying it. Now a retailer treats his outlet more like a real estate.
Yeah.
And he has to maximize the throughput from every square foot of space. Because there's the money he's charging you for that. So it's up to you how much of that space you can use and maximize the return for yourself, which means a great product, properly displayed, nice pricing, nice promotion. And that is when the consumer starts interacting and it leads to finally a buying decision.
Just coming out of the meeting before our podcast, and we're starting hopefully a good merchandising program for a large customer of ours. And because a new rollout and they're transitioning from a distributor model to an agency doing merchandising. And in the passion of the conversation, the decision maker said, merchandiser and merchandising could either make or kill the brand. He made it so passionately that statement. And I said, what if this guy doesn't go there and that doesn't happen and then my sale doesn't happen? So that made me wonder that you've been a P&L leader, CEO, multi-country P&Ls, when you used to sit at that chair, how much thought would you give to your merchandising and where does in your value chain or time in that function would go?
Unfortunately, the corporate world still does not treat merchandising as a very critical input of the selling process. If you see the way we select merchandisers, they would be the least qualified, underpaid, but they're supposed to do the most difficult job of executing.
Ironic.
Yeah, executing.
Yeah.
So while we all talk about great thing about merchandising, but do we put our money behind that particular input, which results into sales? So for me, merchandising is more of a marketing job than a sales job. And if we look at it from that point of view, the whole paradigm shifts. It's an investment in your brand that you're making. And if you don't make the right investment, in the sense that if you don't have the right people, if you don't have the right training, and now with the technology coming in, if they are also not able to use the technology, they're not going to win. Because if you go to shelf today, and if your product is not grabbing their attention, consumer has 10 other options. If you go to a beverage shelf today, if you don't know what you're looking for, if the product does not catch your attention, it's so confusing. There is a product for everything.
Yeah.
So how do you stand out in that crowd is the most difficult job.
Yeah.
But do we put our money on that? We don't, because whenever you talk to companies for merchandising, no, manpower cost. I think that's a very wrong way to look at merchandising. Okay, you need to look at what is the cost per case that I sell? What is the percentage of NSR that I'm investing in merchandising?
So
what
please
to serve?
Give full form to abbreviations just for the audience. NSR?
So, NSR means net sales revenue.
Okay.
So what percentage of my money I'm spending versus my net sales revenue that a good merchandising will generate.
Okay.
So don't look at purely from a cost point of view. Look at that by investing in the right people and right technology, what is the incremental volume I will generate?
Yeah.
And that would then reduce your cost of merchandising as percentage of your net sales revenue, or your cost of sales per case will come down. So I think the metrics has to change how we look at it. So that is one thing I think the companies really need to make that shift. It's not a body game. It's not throwing bodies at it. Okay, it's a productivity game. It's an efficiency game. So the moment we start looking at it more from an efficiency point of view and not from a headcount point of view, I think the paradigm will shift completely. And I'm waiting for that to happen because that's extremely critical. Now, for me, as I said, it was never a headcount game. For me, it was always an efficiency, productivity game. And it was an extension of marketing, or trade marketing, as we call it. And extremely critical part of P&L. Because, the way you execute, okay? Like I'm again going back to your dad keeping the cashews at the back.
Yeah.
Right. So when I'm executing in a supermarket, so I'll keep my high revenue packs at an eye level.
Yeah.
Lower revenue packs at the big packs at the bottom.
Yeah.
And single serves at the top.
Yeah.
So your picture of success in the planogram will define your profitability. And if the merchandiser is a great guy, first is he will execute exact picture of success. So that is where we lose the value if the execution doesn't happen. Second is if you end up with out of stock, which means your forecasting module is not correct, or your supply chain has a problem, your production is not in line with the consumer demands. So you start losing the value there. So I think coming back to your question is a great input for building your business, but you also need to support it with a good supply chain on the side.
So if you're evaluating a successful merchandising program, and for all of us to understand, what are the key metric you would evaluate for a successful merchandising program?
See, there is a process.
Yeah.
There's an outcome.
Okay.
There's no point, doing everything.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't result into sales.
Yeah.
So for me, I will define what process we need to follow to maximize the output.
Okay.
Okay. So first is you need to make sure that your guy is there.
Yeah.
At the right time in the morning when the outlet starts.
So whatever time outlet allows you to.
Exactly. Okay.
Whether it's empty, modern trade.
So there's a
trade.
discipline of visiting those outlets at the frequency that you have pre-decided.
Okay.
So that is the first thing you need to do.
Okay.
As he or she walks inside the outlet, then there are 4 or 5 KPIs based on your product and your category.
What would those 4 or 5 as per you would be?
So first would be that you go to your home shelf.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a planogram, which means that somebody in the company decides which product category goes where on the shelf and from left to right or right to left or top to bottom. There's a lot of science behind that. So you decide that.
Sure.
And this guy should have the picture of success with him. And he needs to make sure that he follows that picture of success. Okay.
Yeah.
So he goes and executes that picture of success. So that's one thing he needs to do.
Yeah.
He needs to make sure that the out of stock are the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Because if you're not there, it's the sales that you're losing.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the second part that he needs to do. He needs to make sure that we follow the first in, first out. Okay. And especially in the food products, the expiries become an issue. So you really need to make sure that you rotate the product properly. The products are stored properly in the back end, because if it's a food product, it should not be on the floor. There should not be water around it or moisture around it, or any other product from where it can get the smell, like a detergent or something. So you need to make sure of that. So pricing communication, the promotion communication, because once you leave the outlet, your merchandising is your silent salesperson in that outlet.
Yeah.
Because then it is your merchandising and consumer who interface with each other. So the way you leave it behind, once you leave that outlet, is the way the consumer is going to look at it. And if that is not done properly, you're going to lose sales. And nobody's going to wait. Consumer will buy something else and go. I mean, if he or she doesn't see your product. So these are certain KPIs that I would go with.
So if I repeat, you said process-wise, start right from has my person reached at the right time where the store has to be done. Then how is my compliance or the success picture? Have I
Yes.
followed the planogram? How is my stock? How is my freshness of the stock? My
Yes.
availability of stock? And is that success picture looks what it's supposed to
And
be? Because a lot
pricing
of-
communication.
And pricing communication.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
As long as all of these are done right,
Yes.
it's a successful merchandising program from a success metrics. There should, an output, as you said, should be sales.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
End of the day, that's
why we are there,
all that is to increase sales.
Yes, you can't say I've done everything. Then it has to result into an incremental sales. Yeah.
Do the P&L leaders have that focus? Do they able to sometimes communicate and see that value and ROI? Or it gets lost into,
It
it was a
lost.
stock problem, it was a delivery problem, not a merchandising problem.
When
it is not good, when it's good, everybody takes the credit, I'm sure.
The problem is, are we measuring it the right way?
Yeah.
Okay, the problem starts from there. There is a lot of work which has happened on the Salesforce automation.
Yeah.
But not much has happened on the merchandising automation. It's happening now. I mean, last couple of years, things have started happening. So if you can't measure it, you can't solve it. So now the measurements have started coming in, but we still use the same people. So we really need to upgrade their capabilities. Once we do that, and create the right dashboards, I'm sure people will start looking at it, because a few years back, nobody was looking at Salesforce automation. Now people are looking at it. So it's a matter of time before people start looking at it and paying attention to it. Yeah.
Going back to your P&L role, and today if you're going and evaluating a merchandising agency who you would work with and give them an order to execute a merchandising program for you in any of the city, whether it's Riyadh, Jeddah, or Dubai, Sharjah, south of Saudi, anywhere where all of this location we operate, what would be the criteria you would evaluate them on, and what would you like them to deliver?
Listen, first I will see who are the people behind that agency.
Okay.
What are their credentials?
Okay.
Okay. Who are the customers they have worked with?
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis, who am I as a company? So do I fit with their profile? Or am I going to compete with some of their products that they have already? Am I going to be too small for them and I lose the focus in the process? Do they have the hunger? If they are relatively young ones, I would prefer that, because they would really put a lot of efforts behind my company. So I look at those parameters, which are more from organization, design, size point of view. Then I'll go to the market and I will check silently what categories they're executing. And since I'm also from FMCG, I would also talk to a couple of store managers to take their feedback. How's the discipline? How's the problem-solving attitude? How well they come and solve your issues and your assets, etc., etc. So there'll be multiple points from where I'll collect the information.
Yeah.
Before I get into the technical side of execution or technical side of their proposal. So I'll look at that. Then see the proposal, okay, and see what kind of technology they're using, what kind of dashboards they're generating, and whether those dashboards are will help us to get better. The technology today should not only be a tool to measure.
Yeah.
Now with AI coming in, the technology should also be a way of improving your merchandiser or salesman while he's in the shop. So technology through AI should be communicating with him or her regularly that, listen, you missed this, so do that. You missed that, do that. So that technology becomes an alter ego of his when he is in the outlet.
Yeah.
And technology brings in the checks and balances before he or she leaves the outlet. Because once they leave the outlet, then it's 48 hours, 24 hours, 72 hours that they will come back. And your sales will suffer for those 72 hours or whatever your frequency of coverage is. So technology has to not only measure, but also has to help the guy to do a better job of merchandising.
Yeah.
So those are a few things which needs to change and make the whole process more efficient.
In your experience, where do brands fall short in a merchandising program?
As I said, no, it is not an extension of sales. It's
Yeah.
an extension of marketing. So merchandising, people look at it, okay, one more tick in the box. Because it's very difficult to quantify merchandising by evening.
Yeah.
A sales get quantified. How many cases you sold?
Yeah.
Okay, how many trucks? How many cases? How much money you collected? So those gets quantified. Merchandising doesn't get quantified. So by evening, you would not know how much have you sold. But over 2-3 months of continuous merchandising, you will realize that how your business has improved without additional cost and how your margins have improved. So if people have the patience and a journey to see that, and measure it the right way, I think the whole paradigm will shift. See, today merchandiser also, his role also has to be expanded. He should be in charge of that outlet. He should not be only executing. He should also be taking orders. He should also know the technology. He should also be connected with the supply chain. Because if there's an out of stock, and if he has talked to somebody else who talks to somebody else to get the order, then he's not in control of all his inputs, which will make his merchandising great.
Correct.
So I think his role needs to be redefined. His capabilities need to be redefined. The technological aspect of his personality has to be redefined. Because for me, it's a very, very critical resource.
Yeah.
So that's how I will sum up the
Fair.
role of a merchandiser.
And in tech, right? So you've been guiding us in making sure that at one channel our tech for merchandising gets better and better. You've been on the buyer side of tech. We have used a lot of AI. We have upgraded it as much as possible. And of course, it's an evolution. You keep working at it. There is no perfect tech. From planogram compliance to many things, BDA compliance, share of the share, freshness report, out of stock reports, AI generated image recognition, etc. What should tech solve? And if you were out to buy a merchandising program and an agency who is also tech enabled, what are your expectations for technology to solve, and what do you see a gap in the market, if any?
See, what I said, technology should not be only doing a post facto analysis.
Okay.
Technology doesn't mean great dashboards.
Yeah.
No. Technology means how you make him more efficient or make her more efficient while she is or he is in front of the category. The technology should identify the shortcomings in his or her performance while they are there and measure it and bring it to his or her attention to do the corrective action. So it has to be an extremely interactive process. It cannot only be a reporting process. So I think that is the shift that companies need to make from a reporting tool to an interactive tool.
Yeah.
And if that happens, I think 90% of the problems will get resolved then and there itself.
Yeah. And I think the like one of the program in which we are working with you and you've been guiding is that rightly said that if the merchandiser does image, knows there is an issue with either out of stock or anything, is tech prompts him for what are the next action to solve.
True.
And the person through those prompts and action led, he ends up fixing it. Then somebody reading the report and then saying, oh, I read it, tomorrow can you fix it? Why there was a problem at that shelf, rather than enabling.
Yes.
And also through the various, either from a training modules, but at the same time that behavior at that time. Of course, AI is getting better and better. The image recognition is getting better and better. People are able to see various data. The things which used to be form-led are now image-led. Nobody has to sit and fill form for the long time rather than get the result of how is my picture of success versus
Yeah.
what is the real there, how much of the compliance there. So there is lots happening there. And I think eventually all this, again, with the client interactions, and we have been together in some of that, is either this lead to, if same number of saturation of my sales or the effort or the efficiency, that I have less number of merchandisers doing the same thing, or the same merchandiser is able to, or number of merchandisers in the city able to cover large area.
Yes.
And actions are not delayed.
Or the third could be that same merchandiser, same area, but a better throughput.
Yeah.
And that is where I think the technology and the capability of the merchandiser comes into play. You remember we were meeting this client who said, I don't want merchandisers, I want warriors.
Oh, yeah.
That defines that you want somebody who does the action rather than reporting.
Yeah.
And if companies can have that kind of mindset, where technology comes, interactive technology tells the person, do this, do that, don't leave the shop without correcting this, I think a lot of things will start getting sorted out.
Yeah.
So I'm borrowing this term from a friend of ours.
Yeah.
You don't need merchandisers, you need warriors.
Merchandising warriors.
Yeah.
Oh, that is great. It's one thing I struggle when I'm speaking to the client, and maybe is that I'm trying to talk to them and say, can we deliver output in some sense? Can we be responsible for more KPIs? Why do you want to work with us as a per merchandiser per month, rather than can I move from a per store or a city, and the service of merchandising will charge you for that? It's still an old school of, oh no, I'm looking for a merchandiser versus merchandising service. Do you think there's a scope of shifting more towards merchandising as a service than providing merchandisers? Am I making sense?
No, you are. That's why I said, merchandising, unfortunately, we treat this as a body game. How many bodies am I engaging? If you're paying X, can I pay 0.8X or 0.9X?
Yeah.
Whereas it should be more performance driven. As I said, you should say, today my merchandising as percentage of NSR is X. Okay, you reduce it to 0.95X. Okay, so I'm saving 0.5X. I will split that between you and me. So I'll give you a basic cost and a performance-driven commission or incentive or whatever. I think that is how we should start going forward.
Yeah.
Where it is not about how many bodies we are throwing. It is what is the outcome. So either it should be the KPIs, while they're the process-driven KPIs, the KPI then should be how much volume growth.
Yeah.
Then you get part of that growth. Or how much percentage of NSR you're saving, that you get part of that. So it has to be the basic cost of a merchandiser plus performance-related incentives, which help both the companies and a merchandising company. So it should be, as you very rightly said, a mix of merchandisers and services-related efficiencies that come into play. That shift is not happening right now because they still look at it as a cost. They don't look at it as an investment. The moment you start looking at it as an investment, I think your whole paradigm will shift.
And how is, when you're a brand trade marketer, and you're thinking through your merchandising, and then your platforms and your channels, as you call it, you got your modern trade, which is your large format retailers, Carrefour, Lulu, Panda, Uthaim, Tamimi, and likes of those. Then you got your general trade. You got your mini marts, and
Wholesalers.
then wholesalers. And then now there's an online channel too. Right?
Absolutely.
How much do you end up coming on the Amazon search or a Noon search or a Talabat and everything else?
And discounters.
Oh, yeah.
There's a new one.
Yeah, discounters. That's big in Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely.
That was first for me. I like those pyramids of merchandise. It's a different world altogether.
I don't know how you reach the top of the pyramid to buy that.
It was very funny. In the south of Saudi, we were there, and there was a whole pile of basmati rice island.
Absolutely.
My God, that was gigantic. And there were three guys on the steps, and they were just throwing the sacks up and down. It was quite a sight to see.
Yeah.
So when you look at all of that, how do you, as a brand, focus where, what, how does it should look based on the channels?
See, it all gets driven by the consumer.
Okay.
What is the profile of the consumer who's visiting these channels? If you're visiting a supermarket, for example, you go there for a monthly purchase.
Yeah.
So anything that you buy will be bigger pack sizes.
Yeah.
So multi-packs, what you sell. Okay. I'm very crudely defining it. But if you're a petrol station, you're filling up a petrol, you go inside, you go open the cooler and you buy a single serve like this can.
Yeah.
So you execute this more where there's a lot of on-the-go consumption. So I will not execute a PET there, or I will not execute a rice there, because nobody's going to go to a petrol station to buy rice.
Yeah.
But energy drink, tobacco or vape or whatever it is, which is immediate consumption.
Energy drink, big category nowadays.
Yes, gums, coffees, etc. So depending on who is the consumer and what need of that consumer you're going to fill, depends what you execute in that outlet.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I will do in a supermarket. And also, if you tell me that what is the future of what is a great merchandising?
Yeah.
Which
Please
we don't
tell
do.
us that.
Which we don't do. But if you see the consumer, the fourth week of the month and the first week of the month, when they go to a supermarket, they load their baskets. But second and third week of the month, they only go for refills. So can you change your picture of success on a weekly basis? That is the perfect thing to do, because their buying decisions are so different between fourth week and first week and between second week and third week. The buying decisions change between morning and evening. Can you change your picture of success? It's not possible.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not possible. Well, let's not say it's not possible. There's nothing is impossible.
Yeah.
But it requires a lot of efforts. Okay. But that is how the consumer behavior change, between week 1 and week 4 and between morning and evening. So coming back to that, based on what consumer need you're fulfilling and who is your consumer who is coming there, you decide on the picture of success. So if you are in a SEC B or C, then all your value-driven packs will get the prominent positioning. If you're in SEC A, then all your revenue and profit-driven packs will get the prominent space in the outlets. So that's how it depends. Consumer profile, their buying power, and what need you're fulfilling at that point of time decides what should be your picture of success.
So if within the people who do merchandising on the ground, right, you got some brands keep it with them as a core function.
Yeah.
I've seen, right? I'm the brand, I'm the principal, I'm Nestle, Kellogg, Coke, Pepsi, whatever, Mentos, gums. I do my merchandising. I do that. Then you have agencies with brands who they have distributors. Distributor also, because they run in this market, distributor is a big part. Then UAE or Saudi, they say we are anybody distributing it, and they're multi-brand distributors, right? They also do merchandise. Then you have agencies who specialize in doing merchandising for you. They provide you team, technology, bring their expertise, and do it for the brand. Who should choose which direction? Of course I want everybody to use agencies.
I know.
Of course I would love everybody to come work with me if possible, or like we are building more and more of our specialization within the FMCG merchandising. If you're advising a trade marketing manager, what should be his or her idea of selecting through which is the channel of merchandising they should use?
Listen, I don't think there's a one right answer for that. First is whosoever does the best job should be given this. Now, let's take a step back. You have a distributor who buys your product, who stores your product, and then he distributes your product. You also want him to do merchandising.
Yeah.
So you got to see that in his thought process, how much importance is he going to put on merchandising? I think you lose the plot somewhere in the whole equation. So is he the best guy to do merchandising? By and large, no. But there could be an exception to the rule. So that's why I said there is no yes or no. There's always a bit of gray area. But I would rather, because for me, merchandising is becoming an extremely specialized area of execution. I will leave it with the experts who do it, whose sole job day in and day out is doing merchandising, who have a lot of technological based services to measure that. Now, whether as a company, am I going to invest in that?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Because for me, as a Coke company bottler, I would rather invest in building my manufacturing capacities, my trucks, my other things. So it depends on your priority of your capital. Do you want to take it in-house or you want to outsource? But it is becoming a specialized job. If you don't have it, better give it to somebody who is specialized in this function. Or invest money to build it internally. But in today's world, we are seeing a lot of things are getting outsourced. IT is getting outsourced. HR is getting outsourced. And you would rather do your core function. If you think your core function is distribution, then you focus on distribution and let somebody else do merchandising for you, who is an expert in that field. So there's no fixed answer. It changes from product to product and situation to situation. But whosoever does it should be a specialized arm of the business.
It's a strategic call.
It's a strategic call, absolutely.
But
it has to deliver. Again, if you look at it, the body count, then God help you, you'll have a lot of bodies after a few years. But if you're looking at it as an investment, then you will think about it very, very differently. So there's no right or wrong, but it has to be done in a very professional way. Did I disappoint you by not saying what you wanted me to
say? Yeah, you just said everybody should use an agency and use Channelplay. In the market, and especially two big markets, right? In GCC, we got UAE, we got Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What's the difference when you merchandise in a Carrefour in Mall of Emirates versus in a Nakheel Mall or a Panda store in middle of Riyadh?
Consumer is very different.
Okay. So it all boils down to who am I addressing?
Listen, end of the day, you're servicing the consumer. If you lose sight of that, you're not going to make it. So consumer is very different. Like in UAE, the local population is 11-12%, whatever that number is. Expats are more than 80%, let's put it that way. Whereas in Saudi, more than 50% are locals.
Yeah.
So their profile, their needs, their food habits are very different versus what you have in UAE. The consumer awareness is very different because a lot of these expats come from Europe, from Australia, from South Africa. So they've been exposed to certain products there.
Yeah.
And they want the same product here. Right. So that really makes a lot of difference in terms of what is your portfolio and how you execute that portfolio. So a Carrefour in Saudi might look very different.
Yeah.
Versus a Carrefour in Mall of Emirates will look very different. Now, Carrefour in Mall of Emirates will look very different from Carrefour in Dera City Center.
Correct.
So why? Because the consumer is different. The consumer wants different services, either is willing to pay or is looking for value. So it changes with the consumer.
One question I get asked a lot is, the client asked me this, are you going to give me a dedicated merchandiser to work for my brand? Or you're going to team will be dedicated to my brand, or this is going to be a shared merchandiser with other brands? Is there pros and cons of one or the other?
Yeah, I mean, there is. If you have a dedicated, it always works better.
Okay.
But because The guy's focus is completely on your product,
Yeah.
and you train him or her and technology. He talks the same language as the company. So throughputs are going to be different, but that's an expense, right? But
Yeah.
again, I go back to the metrics. Don't look at how much you're paying.
Yeah.
Look at what is the outcome of that investment versus shared, where he's doing a beverage, he's doing rice, he's doing frozen. So his attention will be very different. And their planograms are different. The food categories are very different. So you can always feel that there are gray areas where he's falling in the cracks. But then that comes at a cheaper price. But then it affects your productivity and your efficiency. So I would go back to what I said. Your measurements have to change.
Yeah.
It is no more a body game. It's about efficiencies and throughputs.
So I'm a young trade marketing manager or a trade marketing manager who's recently moved to UAE or Saudi. I'm new to the market. What advice would you give him or her as somebody who's been working in this market for that long? You must do this in your first 30 days at job to understand the local market better or before you decide your merchandising plan or merchandising strategy.
Consumer.
Okay.
30 days is too small a period to understand. Understand who your consumer is. That is extremely critical because what you had in your country is not going to work here. So understand the consumer. That's first thing. Understand your product. Okay. What needs the product is going to fulfill.
Understand the consumer, understand the product.
Understand the retail business, retail demographic.
Ecosystem.
Then work out your execution strategy. So first is the consumer is the most critical. Your product and the retail environment. Competition. Competition. That's the fourth big one. And then you decide what should be your execution strategy.
What are the most common mistakes you've seen time and again? People come either new to the market or come from different geography. What are the most common mistakes do you see them executing in the ground?
They are in so much of hurry to prove themselves that they don't take time to assimilate that this market is different. This consumer is different. If something has worked in Europe, doesn't mean it's going to work here. Or if it's worked in India, doesn't mean it's going to work here. So when you take a critical role like this, either you study this market before you come in, which I would recommend because see, as you land into a job, nobody's going to give you 6 months to learn about it. So start learning before you come to the role. Okay, start reading about it. Ask the next wherever you're going for the reports, etc. So start getting familiarize yourself with the territory, with the consumer, with the competition, with everything else. So that once you come back, get out in the market. That is where the best learning happens. You will never learn sitting in a room. So don't get bogged down by presentations and presentations. Ride a truck.
Yeah.
Okay, in 1 week you will know a lot more that you will know in 2 months sitting in the room. So take a step back. Okay, don't be in a hurry to prove yourselves. Listen to the people, understand the consumer, ride the truck, go to the market. Maybe a month later, you're in a far better position to really take a good decision vis-a-vis your product.
So, I'm trying to sum it up. And if anything you think I've missed or we should cover more in this merchandising. So you said it is a very strategic function. You must think it from the top. Do not lose sight of the consumer. Merchandising is all about understanding your consumer, which market, who you serve, what you're serving. Tech is not just about giving dashboards.
No.
It should help people on the ground doing merchandising take the insight, execute then and there, as much as just somebody gets a report and does next day.
Absolutely.
Immediate rectification, fixing, as the warrior merchandiser word we used. And know your market. Work with a specialist as much as possible. or create your specialization, whatever you're doing, end of it, it must result in more sale.
Yeah,
Otherwise, none of this is worth it.
absolutely.
Anything I missed in that?
No, I think we have covered practically everything in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tech, AI. So we talked about AI in merchandising. Also, thank you for putting the perspective that the definition that that merchandising is about placing it right, promoting it right, pricing it according to the market and your P&L. All of that which leads to more sale. So placing, promoting, pricing. You also mentioned a little bit about packaging, and then all those promotions, all the P's of
Absolutely.
the 5 P's, 6 P's, now just 7 P's, and getting that to happen. Make sure if you're running a good agency program that your KPIs are clear with the agency you're working for, so that they know what to deliver. At the same time, you're clear what you're evaluating and what you're expecting out of them. It's not just a function, it's an important growth lever. A good process done input of planogram, stock, where do you promote it, freshness, pricing, promotions rightly been placed. So merchandising is where the rubber hits the road, that okay, you've done great production, great advertising, now in the shelf, consumer has walked in. Are you there?
True.
On their face to make them pick you where the shelf is so busy?
Absolutely.
There's no crowded, everything is a crowded space until you're just selling iPhone.
Absolutely.
Everything is crowded. Thank you for your insights.
One thing I'll add
as
a closing remark for the companies is, I said that earlier also, that merchandising is not a body game. It's not a headcount game. Okay, it's not a cost. It's an investment. So change your perspective, how you look at it. Don't measure in terms of how much I'm paying per person. Measure in terms of what is the throughput I'm getting per person, which is percentage of NSR, I'm repeating myself, or cost of sales, etc. So change the metrics of measuring the efficiency of merchandising and have patience for 3 months, and you'll start seeing wonderful results. Yeah.
What's your further plan for the next 5 years? Enjoying retirement, traveling, playing cricket, golf?
I want to do all. I want to be intellectually involved with younger people like you who keep on challenging me, which keeps me active. And also, take my foot off the pedal a bit and do things that I've not done in the past.
And nowadays you become very remote. You become work from home, remote specialist anyway. I think somebody who has lived through boardroom for the last 40 years.
Absolutely.
I see nowadays you take a call from right outside the temple to home to walk to everywhere else. You are like now place is no more a problem. I am now as Gen Z as possible.
I'm learning. When I see my kids doing their office from home, I'm learning.
Yeah.
And learning is a process that never stops. And that's what keeps it exciting all the time.
It's fantastic. And thank you for your time, because I have learned so much. Over the few months, we have been doing a lot of meetings together, meeting people together, learning. And you said, that's what keeps it exciting.
Yes.
I've been always a very manpower staffing person, as it is my experience. And over the years, number of people, headcount, deployment. And that's been fascinating. Talent is always a big part. And here also finding the right person is very important.
Absolutely.
The client, and time and again, they negotiate, and then eventually it comes down to, as you started this very well right from the start. It's a very important function. Everyone's world-class service. This is the most important chain. Now that you have done all your work, multi-million-dollar factories, great advertisement, everything. And now this is where you want to make sure you execute it right. And then sometimes you want the resources who are not rightly equipped because you don't want to pay them right. I think that's a shift I see happening in the market.
True.
And as a channel play, our vision is to try to make really add value to the client, at the same time add value to our workforce. People learn, grow, pay them fair, pay them well, and use tech to integrate. So looking forward to building more and more channel play merchandising practice across Middle East. And thank you for your continuous guidance all through that. Thank you for your time, sir. Really appreciate it.
Thank you
Enjoyed
very much.
Thank you.